Shh, shh. The podcast is starting. Welcome to the OT Download, from practice to podcast. This is where we unpack everything you didn't know you needed to know about occupational therapy. Whether you're an OT, an OTA, a student, or simply curious, this is your place to explore the real stories, challenges, and opportunities shaping our profession. Each episode will dive into fresh topics from ethics to AI in practice, to the dynamics between OTs and AHAs, the differences between community and medico-legal work, and even what it's like stepping into the courtroom. You'll hear honest conversations on mental health, well-being, boundaries, and early career experiences, alongside insights from lawyers, allied health professionals, and other experts. We'll bust common misconceptions and shine a light on the parts of OT that don't always get spoken about. So if you're ready for insights, stories, and a no-nonsense take on occupational therapy, this is your download. Let's get into it.
Welcome back to the OT Download, from practice to podcasts. We're your hosts. I'm Luke. I'm an occupational therapist, second year out of university, and I work in the NDIS sector with adults.
Hey guys, I'm Pat, and I'm also the occupational therapist from MLEA. I primarily work across the age range, but I do have a special interest in mental health. So today in episode 2, we're going to be talking about what it's like from being a student going into being a full-fledged OT.
Yeah, so I guess we're just going to share some stories about some of the curveballs we might have faced, challenges we may or may not have expected, and what that looks like now, being 2 years out and you're 3.
Yeah, I'm 3 years now. Yeah. So what was your placement experience?
I guess both of mine were very different. So my first one was as a hand therapist, actually, in Robina Outpatients Hospital Centre. So that was a bit of a shock, I guess, when I went into it, because I feel like in university we hadn't really touched on anything specific in OT. So I didn't really know that hand therapists was a specific OT role, I guess. It was really interesting, very anatomy based and physiology based, but I really did enjoy that side of it. And then my second placement, funnily enough, was with MLEA in the NDIS space. So I was really lucky to sort of get that introduction into there early on, which kind of helped me transition, I guess, into the space, working from a student and now working in the sector. So yeah, what about yourself?
So I basically did 2 placements as well, and I did a hospital one. It was called a medical assessment unit ward. So it's kind of like one of those short stay kind of wards where it's kind of in between emergency and general, the general ward, is that what it's called?
Right.
Yeah. So
were you part of a big team there? Was it?
Yeah, it was mostly a lot of allied health nurses and doctors, and basically the whole point of it was people are there for at most it should be 48 hours, and then allied health nurses, doctors, we all assess the person if they get discharged, safe to discharge, and what referrals they need out in the community, and also if they were to become inpatient, where exactly are they going?
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, so
is there follow-up when you discharge? Do you go out to the homes?
No. So usually what it is, it would be referred to the community OTs, which honestly, maybe a few of them could have been NDIS.
Yeah,
I'm not actually really too sure, but I love that placement. It was really good. It was really scary as well. I remember on my very first day of it, because a lot of the OTs that are on there, they're senior OTs, they've been working at this ward for years. When they're doing the information gathering, they just don't need to write notes or anything. They just memorize it, and they're just asking specific questions, and I was whoa, that
was a huge thing I found really difficult with my hand therapy one. They would go off the top of their head and know all the information to get and know specific protocols for certain breaks and injuries, and I sort of felt I didn't have enough structure to follow when I first started there, so that was a massive learning curve for me.
True. Because even though I was at that ward during my placement, I had the opportunity to also just float around just to check out the other ones. I made a friend with someone from, I think it was the university in Townsville.
Okay.
Yeah, JCU, and she was in the hand therapy.
Oh, no
one.
way.
Yeah, so
there are other students there
yeah,
as well.
yeah. Like there was like UQ, JCU students and things like that. So I spent a day actually in the hand therapy, and I was
wow.
well, this is like so.
Yeah, how did you find it?
It just didn't seem like OT to me.
Yeah,
to be
that was a big shock for me. And
yeah.
it's funny because there are actually physiotherapists working in hand therapy, pretty much doing the same job as us while we're there too.
Yeah.
So I find that a bit strange just to wrap my head around what differentiates like what I'm doing as an OT in hand therapy versus a physiotherapist. But I guess there's probably a lot more follow-up and different protocols involved, but that was definitely a big shock for me, being my first proper placement.
Because it would be so niche as well. Like it's not going to give you like a super broad kind of concept of OT in a way. And then my second placement was at Headspace, which is completely different again. So I was working with young people, I think between the ages of like, I'm going to say 6 and 25.
Okay.
Don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that one absolutely loved as well. So we worked with other OTs, we worked with social workers, psychs, clinical psychs, and there was also a GP, like a doctor as well that was there. That was a super cool placement.
That's awesome. Do you reckon that started your predominant interest in mental health area, like having that experience
I
there?
think it definitely like solidified like, oh okay, I do love it.
Have an interest,
but I also love the hospital placement as well. I don't know, like I just felt like that was even I feel like more the hospital, I would love to do mental health in inpatient. I think that'd be
awesome. I found the same when I was even in the outpatient center, like just because it was very fast paced, and I really enjoyed that clinical side of it as well. Like you're sort of seeing the ongoing progress. So where did you actually end up starting out as your first job?
So I started out pretty similar to MLEA. I started out as in a community NDIS company, but they also had, so you know how ours is like, we have just all OTs, two different types of OTs in a way. This one had OTs and also actually support coordinators.
Oh, really?
In this job, yeah.
Wow.
I guess like for me, like one of the biggest things that helped me coming from placement into the job was kind of, at least with the Headspace, I had a bit of experience, I guess, with like capacity building, because that was pretty much what we did, was just like sessions with like young people, and then like building skills around like emotional regulation, things like that. And it definitely, the hospital placement definitely set me up for assessments, like being able to assess someone's like, you know, self-care and things like that.
Did it follow like a similar, I guess, template to like an FCA
report? Honestly, like, but there was like more emphasis though on like the mobility and like assistive technology and self-care. That was like the main focus for discharge. Like if someone was back to baseline with their showering and toileting, you can pretty much say, okay, they'll probably be sweet to go, except we might also recognize like they have some environmental like house barriers or something, so that's why we'll refer to a community OT for like further investigation, things like that. And it definitely set me up for like doing the FCAs and things like that, because that's like a lot of information gathering. Hospitals, in the hospital placement I did a lot of, it's just pretty much what I did, was just a lot of information gathering and things like that. So I feel like that really helped me. But one thing that placement, but this is just my own personal experience because I didn't have an NDIS placement. I kind of came into NDIS having no idea about anything. Any of the processes, they had their own language and things like that. That was just like so hard. No,
I can imagine. Even like I was obviously lucky enough to have my placement with MLEA, who I'm with now, but I can imagine without that how hard that transition would be, because it was still like really really hard for me, even like trying to wrap my head around different parts of the legislation and even the roles of different people in the NDIS, like support coordinators for instance. Like it took me a long time to differentiate what everyone's specific role was. Do you think like working with support coordinators in your NDIS placement gave you a better understanding of that role already?
Not particularly. I think it was more my team, and especially I had a senior manager as well, because it was just literally just me and my OT manager, and everyone else was support coordinators. Oh, and we also had positive behavior therapists as well. Yeah. So that was something I didn't even know it even existed.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. Honestly, what helped was just doing so much. Like, I did a lot of like ghostwriting, so I could like kind of get used to the terms. I had to read up on so much of the NDIS legislation and things like that. Because even with like my hospital placement, they had their own language, you know, when you write up like the soap notes and stuff, you know how they like like what they shorten everything.
It was the same in my hand therapy one. I had to use the soap notes, and that was the first time I'd even seen that.
No,
like,
I know exactly.
That wasn't something we had really done at uni before. So even transitioning to that like was probably one of the hardest parts I found about that placement. Like I found I felt more natural having the client interaction and doing the therapy side of things rather than documenting and being comprehensive in my documentation, knowing what to include, what not to include, and how to format it, I guess, in that hospital setting was something that was probably the hardest thing I found and needed ongoing supervision and support in doing that.
True.
And by the end, it was really like it really helped, and I'm glad I had that opportunity. But yeah, it was really tough at the start.
And you said in your hand therapy that involved like a lot of like anatomy and things like that. Yeah, because we did anatomy and what? Because we both went to Griffith Uni. We did anatomy, I think, in year 1 and year 2. Yeah, we did 2. Did you even remember stuff, what you learned?
Not a whole lot. Like, because I did anatomy when I was doing my first degree, actually. So I started out not in occupational therapy, and that's when I first did my anatomy and my chemistry and my sort of first year subjects. And that was in med lab science, actually. So very different to occupational therapy. So I did that and then got 2.5 years through and kind of decided it wasn't for me. Like I knew I wanted to work with people, and it felt very clinical and kind of not exactly what I was looking for in a job. So that's when I transitioned into occupational therapy, having some friends that had done that before. I went to a few open days and found out a bit more about it. And then that meant that I already had credit for those few subjects. So I didn't redo anatomy. And then when it came to my placement, by the time that was around, it had been like, I think it had been like 6 years since I had done any of those subjects.
Yeah, no,
so I
that's
think the first week I was just restudying anatomy of the wrist and different joints in the arm, because it took me a long time to recollect that knowledge.
No, same. Yeah, because like in my hospital placement, because we're working a lot, especially with the physios, and they're using like all the like anatomy terms, and I was like, oh, let me get back to you on that one. I was like, so that was like really hard as well. But I don't know, everyone was also just super supportive. But I think I've heard a lot of people having bad experiences with placements. Yeah,
I've heard
God was on my side. I had such great, like everyone was so willing to be like, like come shadow me. Things like not even just the OTs. I shadowed physios. I've shadowed the nurses. I did some like nurse things as well. Like, I don't know, they were just like, do anything.
Yeah,
and
really
I was like,
supportive.
Yeah.
I was lucky in that sense as well. Like that was pretty much the deciding factor in going into the NDIS sector, is doing my placement with MLEA actually, and seeing how supportive the team was and how comfortable I felt straight away, even as a student, knowing that I was going into somewhere where I'd have the opportunity to learn and grow. And that was huge in deciding where I first wanted to work. Because even still, like when I started that placement, I had no idea where I wanted to start or what I wanted to do. Because it's just, I feel like OT is just so broad, and you touch on the theory side of things and a lot of frameworks in university, but then you get out to it and you're like, what actually are the different areas to work in, and what does that look like? Because you get 2 placements and then you're kind of out there, and you haven't, if you get 2 of the same placements as well, you haven't really experienced different areas. You don't know what to compare it to. So that was massive when I did my placement in the NDIS sector with MLEA.
So that basically doing the NDIS kind of made you, so it was like, okay, I'm definitely going to do NDIS my first job.
Definitely, I think primarily because, as I was sort of saying before, hand therapy is very niche and specialized almost, to the fact where you're doing a lot of the same things over and over again. And I found it really, really interesting, and I enjoyed that aspect of it. But I felt like as a new grad, if I wanted to go out and get the best experience and development possible, I wanted to go somewhere broad where I'm seeing lots of different conditions. I'm seeing a caseload of lots of different ages and different types of people, all the types of equipment that I'd never heard about or even seen before. So it was a shock factor, definitely seeing that in the placement, but it kind of reaffirmed to me that, this is probably going to be the best option for me, because I do want to have that baseline knowledge in all these sort of areas, and then from there figure out what I want to specialize in or what I take more of an interest to. So that was definitely huge in deciding for me.
Did you feel like pressure with, at the end of uni, having to kind of know exactly what you wanted to do for your first job at all?
Yeah, a little bit. Like, probably not as much as I've talked to other people about feeling that way. Like, I was really, really fortunate in doing my placement where I kind of built a really strong relationship with the team. And I knew pretty early on, like, this would be awesome if I could like work here. Like, I was like, this would be great. So I feel like that relieved a lot of that pressure, because I was like, I actually know what I want to, how I want to start. But I know that's not the case for everyone, and probably a lot of people, because even lots of my mates that I studied with, I was chatting to them about, and it was a stressful time, like applying for jobs and not really having, like, if they didn't get a variety of placements, not really knowing what they were going into or what the team was going to look like or what their specific role would be. So I know from their perspective, it was really stressful.
No, it was actually a really stressful time for me at the end. Did you find that
as well?
Because I just felt like, I don't know, I can't help but compare myself, especially because, like, you know, I'm still young and things like that. You know, people say, like, don't compare yourself, but you're, like, learning to not do that. And I was still in that, obviously, stage of, like, everyone around me, like, all my cohort already knows what they want to do. They did a placement that they're like, that's what I want to do. And although I really loved my hospital and headspace placement, I didn't want to go straight into mental health straight away, because I don't want to box myself into a niche. Hospital, I just didn't want to do something so stressful from the bat in a way. And I know community OT was, like, you know, a common job obviously that everyone kind of gets into in their first job, NDIS, but I was really stressed because I was like, I feel already so behind about it, because when people talked about NDIS, I was like, what? Like equipment trials and things, I'm like, we didn't do any of that.
No, it's something that I feel like there isn't a lot of at university. Like, I think we did one assignment on doing like an AT application.
Was that? Yeah, wasn't that for the grab rail? Was it? But yeah, true. Yeah.
And even when we were doing that, I was still like, it might just be me, but I was still a bit confused. Like, like I wonder what area I'd be doing this in, or like what that would look like in practice.
No,
like
literally.
Prescribing grab rails or doing home modifications.
I feel like that assignment was like, it would be good, but they kind of just shoved that assignment onto us in a way. It was
a little bit like that. And now that I've seen like a home mods application,
I'm like,
working in the role, I'm like, I get what that was trying to do now. But at the time, I was like, what's this huge document with? Because even like the whole side of having to apply for home mods and apply for equipment, and the amount of report writing involved in occupational therapy, I don't think I really understood until I started doing that placement and doing 100%. My bits of ghost writing and seeing how much you had to advocate for people to proceed with equipment and to get funding and things like that. Like even that all to me was a massive shock, because I don't think I grasped how important that was and how much of a role OTs play in doing that. Yeah,
I wish we did in our uni, we had a bit more of a practical component with some of our like courses and things like that. I think I understand the point that they wanted to really make us understand the process and like how OT became OT, like what it is, like all like the CMOP. That's what we did. CMOP.
How do you feel like those frameworks have sort of set you up?
It definitely has set me up for like being really holistic, especially when you're like, you meet someone for the first time and you're trying to capture as much as you can in the first kind of initial visit. I feel like it really helped with that. But then from then on, when they talk about the next parts of the OT process, which is like assessments and then like trials or capacity building. I feel like we never really did any of that at all. And I know they chucked us into a few little placements where, do you remember, like, I don't know if you did it, but like we did like little pediatric placements where we just like shadowed, but they just kind of chucked us in. And to me, because we haven't really learnt anything about OTs in the ped space, I was like, oh, it just kind of just looks like playing with kids. And because they were so busy and things like that, they just didn't have the time to really teach us, you know, exactly what they were doing in sessions. And we just never even had just talking about just like the evidence base around peds and things like that. I found the same. I forgot to mention, actually, that was my first job as an AHA in that pediatrics clinic that I did the shadow placement at. So I was there for like a year and a half, maybe closer to 2 years. So doing a lot of the capacity building, like the occupational therapist would write up the session plan, and then I would take it out with the kids and implement it. And help with like resource preparation, laminating, making visual charts and visual schedules, a lot of the stuff we do now. So similar to what you were sort of saying before, how like I had a bit of a base knowledge in that capacity building side of things. That definitely helped with that side. And then having the theoretical like knowledge at uni and using the frameworks like the CMOP and things like that sort of helped with that information gathering in the NDIS space. So like going out and having the holistic view and the broader picture of what a person does and how their environment interacts with their everyday life. That side of things helped. I would say more with information gathering. True. What was your biggest learning curve with?
Biggest learning curve, I guess the fact of how large the space was and understanding legislation within the NDIS and the processes that went into it and how important your wording is, I guess, also when applying for equipment and funding, and how much you have to advocate for someone to be able to get the funds that they need and the equipment that they need, and the way you have to portray it. Because I guess in our own head we have like clinical justification as to, we know why this person needs the equipment, they know why, like we've done the trial, we understand how it's going to benefit them. But then being able to put that into an application where someone with maybe not the same theoretical experience or knowledge in that area can sort of understand, and you portray it well enough so they can get a good picture of what that person needs and how that piece of equipment or that home mod or that funding will specifically assist them in day-to-day life. I guess that was a huge learning curve in order to be able to put that into an application and be able to word that and write that. So I touched on it briefly before, but I guess a huge experience that I found was a bit of imposter syndrome when I first started. Is that a similar experience for you, do you think? What did that look like?
Definitely. I think I had my fair share of like moments, especially in my first job, where I was like, oh my gosh, I'm actually an OT and I kind of don't know what I'm doing in a way. I think it was like it was kind of like the big, like the first month or two working in the NDIS space where you're just learning everything. I just remember my stress was just like slowly building up, because I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm just getting information overload. And I actually do remember like talking to my manager about it. I think it was in one of our supervision meetings, and I kind of did low-key break down a little bit.
Was that like at the start of when you first started? Or
at the start, and it was pretty much around imposter syndrome. And then so because she was in the OT space for I think like 30-40 years, so she was kind of telling me her experiences with imposter syndrome, and even she's saying that, you know, 40 years into the career, it's like something that never really goes away, because you're always constantly learning something new, and especially even if you go into a new type of job but you been working as an OT for like 10 years, but you go into a completely different space, you get hit with imposter syndrome again.
For sure.
And in a way, like kind of wasn't really reassuring because I was like, oh, I'm always going to feel like this. But then she was like, honestly, like the things that helped me was just like kind of reassuring yourself you're not going to know everything. Like that's obviously the whole point. You're never going to be like a complete expert, know 100% of knowledge, especially when things are always changing, you know, things like that. So it's just basically just like keep on learning. It's like a lifelong learning experience, and that's how you just build your confidence up. That's
huge. That was probably the biggest building block I found, is that I had this like preconception in my head that like I'm a health professional. I like when my client asks me something, I need to know everything. I need to have the answer. And so many times at the start and still now, like it's not the case. Like I'm like, oh, actually don't know. Like, but like I want to know. Like I'm gonna find out, and I'll come back to you, and I'll ask the team. But I found that really confronting at the start, because I was like, oh, am I like,
you don't want to seem like an idiot.
I should have the skills and the knowledge to answer that question or to give them advice, but like I'm not sure. Like I don't know, and I don't want to give them the wrong advice. So I felt like I just got better at explaining that and sort of saying, actually, I'm not 100% sure, but we work in a big team. Lots of people have different experience in different areas. Like I can definitely ask for you. Like leave it with me, and let me talk with the rest of the team, and I'll come back with you. And I think the first time that I sort of saw someone really appreciate that and sort of say like, yeah, that's fine. Like I'm so grateful that you're taking the time to go and find out for me and to get a second opinion if you're a bit unsure. And I noticed that people appreciated that, and I was like, oh, like, it's okay not to know stuff. It's quite normal, especially in such a massive area and a massive new space. You're not going to know everything.
No, everyone responds really well to it as long as you follow up afterwards, like okay, like I actually spoke about it. Everyone was always like, oh yeah, of course, like come back to me.
It's such a nice feeling seeing that it's not this big built up issue that you have it in your head as.
Exactly.
Like other people don't perceive it as that. They perceive it as, oh, this person's willing to find out and to get a second opinion. So that's awesome, and I feel like you would feel the same, I'm sure. But working in the space that we do and having the opportunities to work in a really close-knit team, and have those sessions, like we have a Thursday morning meeting every week where we talk through all of our clinical cases that we might be unsure of, or even if we have an idea, like we bring our idea but get a second opinion on it, just so
100%.
we feel assured in ourselves. And that's been massive for me. Like I know at the start I was coming to that meeting with 10 questions, like this is what I've seen throughout the week, this is what I'm unsure about, like this is what I'm thinking, coming with an idea of what I'm proposing, but asking for advice. Making sure I'm going in the right direction.
And you're thinking of all the possibilities and things like that. And I think one of the things that you realize with OT is that nothing is always a direct answer. Like it's a definite, okay, like this is the issue, this is the like answer, because everyone's different, you know. And the whole part of being an OT is problem solving. You know, like a lot of the solutions or advice that we give is not straightforward at all.
Nothing's linear. That's probably a huge learning point that I sort of gathered in my first 2 years, is that no two people you're going to see are going to be the same. Like no two interventions that you do with someone are going to work for both people. Like everyone's different, and I feel like that was probably a huge part of what uni taught us, is that like you have to look at the person, the environment and the occupation and how that interplays, because it changes so much. And every person is different and has their own goals, and because like you think of just like showering, and from like just like the average person, it's just like, okay, showering, okay, cool, like let's build our independence with it. But if you look at two different people with two different, say, conditions or disabilities, the way how they shower is completely different because of the environment, you know, their physical, you know, things that impact it, all that sort of stuff. What's your biggest hot tip for people who experience imposter syndrome? I guess like being confident in what I'm saying, or at least coming across confident if I am a bit unsure. Like obviously never giving advice that I feel like could be wrong, and always checking with the rest of the team if I'm unsure about something, but backing myself, like telling myself that I actually have done 4 years at uni, like I do have knowledge in this area, like I'm able to give this advice, and being confident in myself in doing that, rather than, I guess, like it could get to the point where, because we do have such a supportive team around, I become too reliant on that, and I'm like, oh, I'm pretty confident, but maybe I'll get a second opinion anyway.
Yeah.
But like I've even been told by like Chelsea, and during supervision sessions, she's been like, yeah, like be confident and just say that. Like exactly what you told me was exactly what you needed to say. Like I feel like that's something you didn't need to get advice on, like even though it's good to, and to solidify that. But I myself, I feel like could have been more confident from the get-go and backed what I thought, and yeah, given the advice or completed the intervention or prescribed the piece of equipment that I initially thought, because I am an OT.
Yeah.
I guess.
Good. Well, I mean, you can't really beat yourself up about that, because that's not something that comes naturally.
Yeah.
So like it is a skill that you learn.
Yeah.
And like to be better safe than sorry is to, you know, go back to the team and things like that. And it's just something you slowly get a bit more confident, obviously, to be like, okay, I'm pretty sure about it. And obviously, you know, it sucks, but like we are all human. Sometimes we do like make mistakes, or we say something a little bit wrong, you know, but as long as we always like, you know, fact checked ourselves, you know, type of thing.
Sure. So I guess while we're on the topic of talking about challenges, can you think of any other challenges you might have experienced at the start?
So I kind of have experienced a bit of burnout at the end of last year, which honestly really sucks, because obviously when you think of burnout, you think of someone that's been in like, you know, been working somewhere for like 20 years, and they're like kindly was like, nah, I can't do this anymore. But I was like at the end of my second year of OT, and I was like, why is this happening to me? But like without getting too into it, but I just kind of was going through a lot of personal stuff, and then on top of it, having to deal with quite of a heavy caseload at times, because I was starting to build a bit more on my mental health caseload, and I just didn't have the capacity to really be fully engaged in a lot of my sessions with a lot of those clients. And because I was still like obviously quite new, obviously knowing what burnout kind of looks like, I didn't really know exactly like what to look for in a way, like what were the warning signs and things like that.
I feel like it could look different.
Yeah,
for a lot of people as well,
100%. Yeah. And then I just kind of just reached to a point, because I didn't know I could voice to the team at the time to be like, I'm actually kind of struggling, guys. I just reached a point pretty much, and I did kind of just break down a bit. And the really good thing about it, like when you do have such a supportive team that is really like, you know, actually cares about mental health and things like that, it's actually, you know, you realize you're so validated and so human that it's okay that something like this happens, even if you are only 1 year out of like graduating and things like that. And it really did help me to be like, oh, okay, I can voice things, and it's not going to turn back on me or anything like that.
And you're able to be more vulnerable, I guess,
exactly. Because it's really hard, like, you know, having to be vulnerable, especially in a workplace where you always think of it like, I have to be professional, you know, I kind of have to be like emotionally resilient and things like that. Because I know that was what was really kind of drilled into me. I feel like in like uni, and especially at my first job, being like, you know, you got to build your emotional resilience and things like that. But no, it was actually really good, because it also was such a big turning point for me, how much I realized, you know, work-life balance is so important, and you got to put so much like effort into it to whether what that looks like for you, because that's what really helped me. Because at the time I didn't really even have much of a routine like outside. I started becoming like really into the routine of like go to work, wake up, sleep, you know, things like that.
It's easy to happen.
Yeah, it's like you kind of just go into autopilot in a way,
for sure.
and you don't take like intentional time to be like, no, I got to actually do things outside of work that actually fills my cup up and stuff. And then looking back, like retrospectively, I think a lot of the warning signs for me was like I started like not really seeing friends a lot. Kind of, I felt like, you know, I was not eager to go to work and things like that. But what really helped me as well was when I did end up speaking to the team was actually not just doing full time. I ended up now I'm doing 3.5 days, as you know. And that was something that was really scary because I know like you should be working full time. You know, that's kind of the societal.
It always feels a bit taboo.
Exactly. Yeah. Because then it's just like, why?
Yeah.
Like, why aren't you doing full time? You know, you're like 24 now, you know? But now doing 3.5 days, it's been like amazing for me because now I do just need that extra time to kind of really build on my self-care and things like that, and actually like be consistent with my routine outside of work, and it's just been great for me. Awesome.
What are you doing now? Do you think
I go like outside of work and things like that. Well, I definitely put a lot more intentional effort into like a routine and things like that, like just like, you know, your basic needs, like, you know, make sure you're eating well, exercising, seeing friends and things like that. Really like, you know, you should do it, but sometimes it's hard, especially when you're working and stressed. It's those things can like, you know, go to the wayside. And just having, I think I just need that bit of extra time to actually really solidify that. Sure. And then I also found out like some of my friends as well, like when they graduated from OT, they didn't even go straight into full time. They started just doing like 4 days a week and things like that. And it should be actually a bit more normalized.
I was going to say it should be normalized because I feel like that is a taboo thing. That I guess it's just a stereotype that's been built up. That like you've done 4 years of study and you haven't been making money for so long. Like, you need to get straight into it and be going like 100 miles an hour and working 5 days a week, when in reality, like, although it seems like, oh, you're only been in the job for a few weeks or you're in your first year, like how are you getting burnt out already? But like, I almost feel like you could be more susceptible to it because you're so hyper focused on building this new routine and learning all this new knowledge and having face-to-face interactions with clients for the first time properly and ensuring that you're doing all the right things. Like, it's so easy to burn out. And I felt like even when I started, I know probably at the first 3 weeks I was coming home and I reckon I would just fall asleep as soon as I got home. Like, at 4 PM.
No,
just
I was
I was
the same.
Wrecked, like, mentally fatigued with everything that was going on. And I feel like it should be more normalized because, like, I've talked to other people and they've had the same experiences you've sort of shared. And I've had as well. So yeah, I think it is this taboo thing that it shouldn't be. That actually kind of unlocked a bit of a memory. I remember doing that as well. I was so tired after each day. Actually, would literally fall asleep. And I think that actually kind of makes sense why I went into a bit of a cycle, because I'll be asleep as soon when I get home. Obviously, I'm not doing things like seeing friends or, I was going to say, and then that's when you start, I feel like,
I think that's when it goes downhill.
Yeah, exactly. Neglecting the things that you would do every afternoon. And it would be a normal part of your life. And it's all the things that you look forward to and make you feel really good. And all of a sudden, you still love those things, but you're not doing them because you're tired or you're too focused on work. So it's definitely like a really tricky balance to figure out. And it takes a lot of time. Like, I'm still trying to figure out.
What's your work-life balance like at the moment?
At the moment, I have been running quite a lot and living near the beach. I try and either do a beach walk or, if the surf's good, go for a little surf after work. And I know at the start, same with you, I was neglecting that a lot. And I sort of saw myself start to spiral a little bit, and I was like, I'm stuck in a bit of like a rut where I'm not doing the things that bring me joy, and I recognize that, and then people around me recognize it as well. Like, even living with my partner, and I'd get home and I'd be too tired to, like, she'd be like, how's your day? And I'd be like, I can't even talk about it. Like, I'm too tired. And I was like, wow, this is really like impacting me, like trying to adjust to working full time and learning a new job. Like it impacted me a lot more than I think I was realizing until other people told me. And then I sort of looked at myself from a different perspective and said, yeah, I'm not doing all the things that I love doing. And now I've just been very strict with myself. And I think I've set a lot firmer boundaries in that when I'm working from home, as soon as it's 4 o'clock, logging off and going down to the beach and surfing or doing something that I love doing. And no matter how stressed I am at the end of the day, or I feel like, oh, I've got this overwhelming pile of work I need to get to, like it's going to be there tomorrow. And I can start attacking that tomorrow, and it's not something that I should be taking home with me. And it's really easier to say rather than do. But I feel like over time, having people around me like re-emphasizing that to me has really helped, and like my partner saying like, hey, why are you still working, or let's go for a walk, like that really helped as well. As well as just being firmer on myself and sort of saying like, no, I need a work-life balance. I need to keep doing the things I love doing that make me feel good and happy and restful.
No, that's so true. You make a good point about the taking things home from work. I think that was another thing I was doing a lot at the end of last year, especially like a lot of my clients with quite, a lot of trauma and things like that. I was just bringing their trauma home, and that was really heavy for me because I didn't even know how to process my own emotions, let alone someone else's trauma. And it's just a skill that you kind of have to learn to kind of park it, like, okay, I acknowledge that, that's really heavy, but you're human as well, you gotta park it. I'm still obviously, I think it's going to be a forever thing, especially when you meet new people with different types of life experiences, and you're going to always get heavy appointments and things like that where people are quite distressed, and in our appointments and things like that, it's always going to be hard, but now I think I have a bit of a self-care routine like after those appointments.
What does that look like?
So basically when I have a heavy client that I'm seeing and I'm like, well, like that was a lot, sometimes I do just need to have a bit of a cry about it, just get it out of my system, just have a cry. And then I just honestly in the car, I'm like, all right, sometimes I might need to call someone, just either distract myself or debrief about it, or just honestly just listening to music, just something just to distract myself basically, rather than ruminating on it. Because I think that was my issue. I would, someone would be talking a lot about their trauma, and I would not really, I'll be like just constantly thinking about it rather than just being actually just processing, okay, that was really heavy, but like let's actually move on though. Because you got to either see another client or things like that.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's just like whether what your self-regulation strategies are. All right, so now we're going to bust some myths now. So first one, I'm going to give it to you, which is you should know exactly the area you want to work in.
Definitely not. I feel like it's such a massive area to go into, and placement does give you that bit of experience, but once you're in a specific role, it can be very different. So it's all right to test trial and find. What about placement teaching you everything you'll need to know?
No, it doesn't. It teaches you a lot of valuable things, but definitely doesn't teach you everything.
Yeah, I agree. How about that it's unprofessional to admit that you don't know something?
Definitely false. As what we said before is, it's okay to say, I don't know, but I'll ask. And then you can find out later. So
agreed.
This one is imposter syndrome means you're in the wrong job.
Not at all. I think imposter syndrome is very normal. I got it when I first started in the job, and I still get it 2 years in, but I think you develop new ways to deal with it and understand that it's normal. What do you think about NDIS reporting being straightforward?
Incorrect. Well, it is a massive learning curve, but, most new grads struggle with it, like what we did, and it's just something you just learn along the way of how to get more efficient with it. So here's another one for you. You have to say yes to everything.
Absolutely not. It definitely feels like that when you first start in a role, but I feel like the more time you're there, the more comfortable you get, you can definitely develop a way to say no. And the final myth, you have to have everything figured out.
No, being a new grad, it's messy, non-linear, but you eventually will figure it out by the end. All right. Well, thanks, guys, for tuning in to the early career episode. Whether you're someone that's supporting a new grad or you are a new grad yourself, make sure to share it with your other OTs or other new grads that you know, and to make sure to share all your stories. We'll love to hear from you. Stay tuned for our next episode.
See yous.
Hey everyone, Callie here. I'm MLEA's Medical Legal Client Services Officer, which basically means I get to see the medical legal world in action every day from behind the scenes. I'll be joining our OT Mia in our next episode, where we're putting medical legal OT in the hot seat. We'll unpack what medical legal occupational therapy really is, what it looks like in practice, and bust some of the big myths about the work we do, from whether it's just report writing to how we balance empathy and evidence. If you've ever wondered how OT and law intersect, or what it's like to write evidence that shapes real legal outcomes, this is one you won't want to miss. Make sure you're following the OT download so you don't miss episode 3 inside the world of medical legal OT. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.